Hello and welcome. I am Scarperlock, and we are playing City of Heroes on the Everlasting server. And checking to make sure, are we earning XP here? We are not. Okay. And let's just take a look at our ID. We're still level 12 because I've been turning the experience on and off every other mission to try to avoid out-leveling story arcs. We have 27,000 total experience and 66,000 total influence. We're probably going to level in this episode, although I'm going to try, unlike the last couple, to keep it to a reasonable length. Um, I've got the XP turned on this mission, and I'll turn it back on next mission. We've been level 12 for a ridiculously long time because I'm trying not to outlevel my story arcs. But we just completed one, although we have all these other contacts to deal with. So it doesn't look like Wilson's going to give us a story arc. I'm going to try one more mission from him, and if it doesn't start a story arc, I am going to move on to another contact. I don't know which of these are going to trigger story arcs and which ones aren't. I'm sure Eagle Eye will, but this is a newer one, and I'd really rather focus on the older ones. I'm really trying to see if I can get into Bonefire, but it might be too late for that. My recollection is that kind of ended by level 11 or 12, but it might go up to 15, so I'm going to see if I can get into it. If that's true, it'll be Skulls or Hellions, probably Skulls. These two are both Skulls. This one's just going into King's Row and beating up Skulls, right? So they see they can't pick on our businessmen. This one is going to an abandoned warehouse where the Skulls are storing their stash of Superidine. So maybe that'll lead us in, maybe not. We're going to do one more mission for this guy. And then after that, we're going to move on to another contact, perhaps the one in Skyway City. And we'll see what happens. Alright, so I need to get up to the train station. We can go this way. We're on our way to level 14. Level 14 will get us to Super Jump. As you know, I've been avoiding Super Jump because I've wanted to have more of a vanilla experience, and you couldn't get Super Jump before level 14 back during the original launch of the game. So we're just going to have to, I guess, live with that for a while. Since I've made that decision, there's no way we can change it, because we can't get our next power till level 14. Fortunately, this next mission is in Atlas Park, which is a very small zone, and so we shouldn't have any trouble, A, going through it in terms of being attacked by enemies, and B, going like this, and B, going through it in terms of the speed that it takes, because it's a small zone. I feel like the music is being louder than normal. Maybe it's just my headset. Hopefully it's not overwhelming my narration. Okay, so we're heading to Atlas Park on the train, and we will, wow, already 2 full zones and 2 full instances of this zone, and now we're going to head to the warehouse and take out the Skulls. And if this doesn't lead us into a story arc, I'm going to move on to another contact. So let's select this mission. And we will move on. Now you may hear some music and see little squares surrounding my character. Right before I logged off, somebody told my fortune. So that's this thing, the sun. And if you select info on it, your fortune is the sun. The power of the sun brings strength and life, so it gives us some additional buffs, some resistances, some healing bonus, some smashing resistance, a little bit of extra damage. I don't know how long that's going to last. But if you watch the end of the last video, somebody asked to tell my fortune, and I don't really know what that. I don't really know how that works. But I said, sure, whatever. It's another player trying to do something to me. Sure, whatever. And I guess it gives buffs. I don't really know. And did I screw this up, or can I get over this wall? Here we go. And this warehouse is where we will find the Skulls. So skulls. So we need 5 drug stashes to confiscate and arrest Mr. Bones. Ooh, maybe. Maybe this is going to be Bonefire. I don't know. Ouch. Actually, it didn't hurt, just knocked me down. So with our buffs, we may be able to take these guys out a little faster. We'll see. And so we've got to look for 5 drug stashes and Mr. Bones. So we're going to need to look for glowies and listen for them. You can see the there are lots of different types of, where's my map? Lots of different types of warehouse maps. We've been in several warehouses. They all sort of begin kind of the same way with this kind of like front office, but then they lead you to different different areas. Sometimes they have like conveyor belts where they're making boxes and stuff. Sometimes they have other things. The insides might be nice and clean. They might be a little worn down. They might be totally wrecked like this one where it's all kind of beat up. So it's kind of nice that they had so many different types of maps that you could use. We've seen the same map once or twice, but here we are at level 12, and we've done a couple story arcs and a whole lot of missions, and I think we've only seen the same map once or twice very early on at low level. So it actually took me, I don't know, probably like 20 levels into the game before I realized that some of the maps repeat. I actually thought they were all being kind of procedurally or dynamically generated, but they are not. They're static. I think there's it'll do something like, for instance, in the tutorial mission, there are like 1 or 2 maps that it will randomly choose to put you on, and then otherwise those maps are the same. So it'll always be map 1 or 2. If you're on map 2 is always the same, right? The spawns are in the same place, the glowies are in the same place, and so once you become familiar with these maps, it becomes sort of easier to find things. But there's a huge variety of them, which is quite nice. So now you see running 2 toggles, we are draining our endurance quite a lot. I'm going to go ahead and turn that one off. Actually take that. Alright, here we go. Also, another thing I didn't mention, in a previous episode, I went into a mission, and they were like green and gray to me, and then they became blue, and then they became white, and then I think eventually yellow. Sometimes you'll go into a mission and there's a bunch of yellows at the beginning, and then they drop down to whites and blues. I remember thinking this was a bug and talking about it on the forum when the game first came out. And what Statesman Jack Emmert explained is, by their design, most missions are kind of the same level all the way through, but they have some missions they call front-loaded missions, where it's harder at the beginning and easier toward the end, and then other missions they called backloaded missions, where you go in and it's super easy and then it gets harder as you go. And so I hear a glowy, so we gotta look for that. But that's why that one mission, it started out green and gray and ended up yellow. That was a backloaded mission. And again, I'm rusty, as I said in the last episode, and I had forgotten all about that. I'd forgotten that they do that. I hear a glowy, I bet it's upstairs. We've aggroed some of the guys that were above us. I'm going to go ahead and take a green, since I normally don't keep 3 greens when I have only 2 rows of inspirations. And these are the guys that are shooting at me, so we're going to beat them up. And I've done a little bit of over-aggroing here. It's fine as a scrapper. Who the heck just pulled a gun on me? That guy. Yeah, I must have walked past the spawn I didn't see. Try to avoid taking the luck. I shouldn't need it just to take these guys out. Oh, that's a lieutenant. That's why I'm taking so much damage. Yeah, remember, they have a bonus to hit me. Oh, with the toggle on, I should be alright. Yeah, I didn't even see him and his partner. That was kind of sloppy. Nice thing about scrappers, you can afford to be a little sloppy and you're probably going to survive. I got too busy trying to find the glowy. So now let's see. We got one of the drug stashes. One of the things I didn't mention, so we can confiscate this birdie. One of the things I didn't mention in any earlier videos is when it says, you know, to find 5 things and you click on a glowy, it doesn't always find it. So it depends on the mission. Some missions, every glowy will give you a clue, and you need to click on 5 things. There will be 5 glowies in the mission. But some missions will have like 20 of them, and only 3 or 4 or 5 of them will actually have the thing you're looking for. So it just depends on the mission. I hear somebody talking. I was looking to see if that was the boss we're looking for, right, Mr. Bones? Still got this sun buff. I wonder how long that's going to last. I had someone throw one of those on me in the tutorial, but I had just come back to the game and I didn't really notice how long it lasted. So I don't know. One of the things I did want to mention, you know, I've derped this a few times and I've done some things that I've said, admittedly, were sloppy. I can't remember who it was playing one of these games and said, you know, when you're doing a narration and you're actually talking to people, explaining the game as you go and that sort of thing, it's actually a lot harder than just quietly playing the game by yourself. It is a little more distracting. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not quite as bad at this game as it might appear. Sometimes also I'm just trying to demonstrate how something works, and that also can lead to taking a lot more damage or screwing things up a little bit too. But to be fair, I'm also very rusty at this game, as I mentioned an episode or 2 ago, and there are lots of things that I've been doing where I'm like, why did I do that? You know, especially if I rewatch the video, like, I know better than that. But you just never know. When you're playing, you just never, you know, it's sort of hard to remember everything, explain everything, talk about everything, and then still concentrate on playing the game. Okay, so there is Mr. Bones. So we're going to try not to aggro him until we've cleared as much of the room as possible. So I'm going to head over here, and these guys are safe. We shouldn't aggro Bones. So usually when you're fighting a boss, they put the boss in the final room, although here we clearly haven't cleared the whole area, and my guess is by the time we defeat Bones, we're going to still have 1 or 2 drug stashes to find, like this one here. But we're still going to have 3 more after this, right? I'm going to go up. I always like to be up and see what I can see from above, and make sure that if there's anybody up here, we take them out, right? We don't want them dropping down on us. We don't want to aggro them while we're fighting Bones. There's another glowy. Right, another drug stash right there. Getting lots of salvage. I still haven't looked up where to find the vault to store stuff. Again, that's one of these things I used to know. Of course, I also had a supergroup base, and I think you could put it in your base, too. Salvage. We have 42 of 150, so it's not that bad, but... And 13 out of 70. I mean, we're sort of getting there, where eventually we're going to need to stash some of the stuff, or sell it, if I don't want to use it, like the recipes. So there's Bones. What else? Okay, this guy. I do not want him getting involved in the Bones fight, so let's pull him out of the way. And one trick with pulling is to go where they can't see you, and then they will run around to try, even if it's a ranged guy. What you don't want to do, especially as a scrapper, if you're ranged, is do a pull and just back up with a clear space between you and them, because then they'll just walk up close enough to hit you and then start shooting. Found another recipe. Exploit weakness. This is a damage, endurance. Yeah, these are level 10s. I'm not that interested in level 10 stuff. Some enhancement sets only come in the lower levels, and you might kind of want them, but my recollection is most of the best invention ones come after level 30. So, I mean, the thing with invention ones is they never wear out, which is nice, but still, let's see if we can pull this guy. Still, you don't know, we can't pull him. Bones is going to come after us. Still, even though it doesn't wear out, the higher level ones are still better, right, than the lower level sets. So now I'm going to use, whoops, I'm going to use a luck because Bones is going to debuff me. And I just want to make sure I can stand in here against him. Ouch, see? He should be right now. Practice Brawler just in case he tries to mez. One of the things I found out, I realized that I'm not correct. Practice Brawler is a click mez defense. Ouch, this guy's really getting me. It's a click mez defense. And I said at the time it's the best because it's a click and not a toggle. So the way this works, it used to be before issue 13, and I looked this up offline, it used to be that when you got mezzed, all your toggles would turn off, right? So if you had a toggle based like this, where it's off now, and then it's on now, if you had a toggle based mez defense like Unyielding from the Invulnerable set, and you got mezzed, all your toggles, including Unyielding, would turn off. You now have no mez protection, an additional incoming mez while you're stunned, a hold coming in, a disorient coming in, a sleep coming in is going to hit you. So what would happen is you'd get stuck in a chain mez, right? Something would overwhelm the Unyielding, and you'd get slept, right? You're asleep. All your toggles drop, and now a hold comes in, and now a stun comes in, and now a blind comes in, and it's just one after another can be hitting you. If you're a tanker and you're in a big giant room full of devouring earth that throw all of these sleeps and stuns and disorients and holds at you, once that Unyielding drops, you could just die because it wouldn't you wouldn't be able to get it back up. So what they did in issue 13 to stop this, I guess, was they made it so that your toggles stay on when you get mezzed. So if I don't have Practice Brawler on and I get hit, and this in fact happened, you can go back and watch the video, I was slept by a Madness Mage, my toggles stayed up, and I was like, my toggles are still on, that's unusual. Well, what happens is they stay on, but they get suppressed. So the effects get turned off, but the toggle is still active. As soon as the mez turns off, you get it back. You don't have to re-engage it. Also, for the mez defense toggles, although their other defenses turn off, apparently their mez protection stays on, so it works like Practice Brawler. So in a way, Practice Brawler is just equal to the other ones now. It's no longer, I guess, the best mez defense in the game. I still prefer it. I love Practice Brawler, but it's no longer really demonstrably superior to Unyielding the way it used to be. I mean, it used to be very clearly superior, but that's not true anymore. So now we're gonna have to go upstairs because I see these this hallway up here. Just got to figure out how to get up there. There's got to be a ramp somewhere. Anyway, I just wanted to explain that because I gave basically incorrect information. And I don't like giving incorrect information. Alright, so now we have some oranges to fight. This might be a little hard because we don't have any heals, we don't have any lucks, but that's alright. These guys should be okay as long as it's not a boss. Boss could be kind of tough with no inspirations at this stage. With no defense and healing inspirations, that is. Alright, let's see. Is there a glowy up here? Nope, but this is the way through to the hallway here. I remember this map with these little... Oftentimes there are a lot of spawns up in this area, especially if it's a group map. Like if it's a bunch of... If you bring a large group into this, there are a lot more spawns, and I think there are usually a lot more spawn points on these maps too, because you come in here and it's just kind of constant, like, enemies everywhere. And so in a group of 8, a spawn like this wouldn't just be 3 minions, right? It would be probably a boss, a couple of lieutenants, and a dozen or so minions, maybe more. Right? If you had 8 people in here, there's going to be like 20 enemies in this room, including some bosses, maybe an elite boss in every spawn. I mean, it really ramps up in terms of how much is in the spawn if you bring in a large number of people. So far all we've seen is solo missions, and these missions are geared toward a single person. And as hopefully is clear, early on they were just super easy, but ever since like level 10, as I pointed out, the kind of the puberty levels, right? We're now heavily into the puberty levels, and so that means that we're gonna have to, and that's our extra box, I guess. We're gonna struggle the way a kid in puberty struggles with growing up, until we get to level 22 and quote unquote graduate college, as it were, and get our single origin enhancements and become, shall we say, a full adult. This is going to be a bit of a struggle. I'm making it more of a struggle by not using dual origin enhancements. And not because I want it to be harder, but just because I'm not sure how much influence I'm going to have. And as I said, you need something like 800,000 influence to fully trick out with single origin enhancers a scrapper at level 22, which is what I'm going to try to do. I don't know if it's going to be possible. We're just gaining influence right now. In fact, right now we have over 70,000, but that's still only about 10% of what we need. Alright, so now I got to figure out how to get over to this. Because it seems like... So that's near the entrance, right? Is that the only one left? Alright, let's turn on sprint and get over there. If I can. There we go. Yeah, when you have these multi-level maps, sometimes it's hard to tell which part of the map is above you and which is below. No, so we're not up there. This is where we gotta go. Ah, I hear it. Ah, hidden behind the boxes. Yep. That's why this little thing is up here. Years ago, when the game first launched, they did not have that, here's where the last one is, asterisk. And, yeah, sometimes you could be running around for hours and there'd be a box, like, hidden way back in here, right, in this little spot. And you were never going to find it if you didn't. And I think early on the glowies didn't make as much sound either. They were quieter, so they were much harder to find. And look at this. It is currently Saturday morning at 8 a.m. 2 out of 3 Atlas Park instances are full. There's a lot of people still playing this game. I wonder how many of them have been playing all night. There's some Vajaloks, but they're not going to aggro to us because we're way higher level than they are. Alright, so let's talk to our contact. And he says, well, that's one load of Superidine that will never see the streets. And we're all the way maxed on him and we don't have a story arc, so I think it's time to switch. Let's try Lorenzo and head to Skyway City. So actually first I need to click on the train station. And head over there. And I probably need to sell some enhancements. Oh, I got a dual origin enhancement. This is a defense buff. Excellent. Can we combine these? We can. That's really nice. Alright, let's go ahead and combine them, and now they're better. That makes focus senses even better. It's now a 10% buff. So instead of being a 13.88% defense against range, it's now 15. So now actually, you know, before we got focus senses, our defense against melee was much better, right? Um, we had the let's do detailed information with focus fighting. Actually, let's do this over here with focus fighting. We had about 14% defense to melee, and then with combat jumping, we had about another 2%. So we had about 16% defense against melee. And with agile, we only had the 2% from combat jumping and the 5.6 here, so we had about 8%. But now with focus senses, we've got 15% plus the agiles 5.6, so we got about 21% there plus the about 2%. So we got like a 23% defense against range attacks when we run focus senses, which means they have a 23% lower chance to hit us. So for example, a minion that's got a 50% chance to hit at range against me only has about a 27% chance with this toggle running and combat jump and agile. So until we get dodge, we're actually going to be stronger, a little bit stronger against range than against melee. And that's just because we don't have the passive against melee yet, because that's a higher level passive. That's over here. So we can get that, but I want to get probably Cobra Strike first, and then we'll worry about that passive. So now we're actually going to be better against range than against melee with both toggles running, but as you've seen with the endurance drain, we can't always run both toggles. Alright, so now we're going to go to Skyway City. I guess I'll go north. I'm not really sure where this guy is. And we'll meet our contacts here, and maybe we'll work on 2 of them and see if one of them can lead us into a story arc. There are other story arcs in this level range. I'm not sure how high you have to be, but there's also the Vajjalok and the Clockwork King story arc, so we might get one of those. We'll just have to see. So let's see. Lorenzo is 105 yards away, so that's good. And then we also have Tristan Kane, who's 600 yards away, way up in the north. So let's talk to Lorenzo, and then we'll see what he has us do. At least he's very easy to get to. So, he has 2 choices. This is council. Sorry. There's been a marked increase in council activity. Can you hit the streets and defeat a few council troops? Those thugs need a wake-up call. Or the council is stepping up recruiting. I need you to shut down the council recruiting facility. Let's try that. That's in Atlas Park, unfortunately, so we're going to have to go back. Before we do that, though, whoops, fell down. We can come back up. Before we do that, let's talk to this other contact. I think that's the only other contact in Skyway City. Steel, Kings, Skyway is Tristan. So let's hit Tristan. And again, with Skyway City, what I try to do, especially at this level when I don't have super jump, is go up every chance I can get, because otherwise you end up with these walls that block you off, and then you've got to go around, as I'm showing here. As you can see, this is a really big zone. This is the point where you definitely start needing your movement powers. Well, let's see what Tristan Kane, whatever he is, has to say to us. He's over there. Can we go up this way? So now we're pretty high, but there's even more streets levels above us. This is a really cool zone, actually. I like the design. It's a little rundown, kind of like Kings Row. It's not as clean looking as Steel Canyon or Atlas Park, but it's a pretty neat looking area. Again, trying to stick to the streets. There's also a shop around here too. The Magic Store is right there, so if we want to buy dual origin enhancements, we can. Let's go back to Tristan Kane. There we go. He's very close. And here he is. I remember this guy. I remember coming up to see him. Okay. Villains in this city are a danger. His missions are, first, the neighborhood watch in Steel Canyon is reporting a serious problem with the Vajjalok. Zombies have been breaking into labs and so forth. Get to Steel Canyon and stop the Vajjalok lab raids. Or, Anthony Barton and Theodore Cho, brilliant ER surgeons, have been kidnapped. We think They've been taken to abandoned office. Let's go and save these guys from the Vajalok. This is in King's Row, so now we're going to go back. So this is why you start needing movement powers, because your contacts don't give you missions in the zone. And so there's a lot of back and forth, especially until you get their cell phone numbers. Now, one of the things they did do in the game is they made it easier to get the cell phone numbers of these contacts. So you see this little one here is very low down, and very, so it's a very, this and this used to be like here and here. So I think this breakpoint is where you get their cell number, maybe after, say, 2 missions. It used to be you had to do maybe 5, 6, 7 missions for them before you get their cell number, and maybe more like 6, 7, 8 missions before you could get into a story arc, and they've kind of tried to ease that back, a long time ago, on issue 4 or 5 or something, so that it was a little bit easier to get into your story arcs. Now, one of the reasons when the game launched that they made it so hard to get into the story arcs was because they didn't have enough content. And so, I mean, I literally, I remember being here in Skyway City at level 19, having done all of my stuff for all of my contacts, and I had no missions left. They had nothing. They had introduced me to other contacts, but the other contacts weren't ready for me yet. And so I was literally, I had nothing that I could do until I reached 20th level. So I was just super jumping around Skyway City, finding random spawns and just beating them up for an entire level. That's not a problem anymore because there are so many contacts and so many missions, as you can see, that we can't even do them all before we outlevel them. And in fact, I'm turning off the experience gain, which reminds me it's time to turn it back on. And remember, every other mission, so this mission will turn it on, next mission will turn it off. We will almost certainly, absolutely, we will level to 13 in this mission. However, it's been a long time, so what I'm going to do is get us to the mission door, and then I will cut, and we will come back in the next episode and run these 2 missions. Alright, so here we are. I'm going to... Nobody's attacking me, are they? I'm going to stop here, and I will see you guys in the next episode.